Sentinels right now are clearly the best team in the VCT Americas League. They just beat everybody in their region at kickoff, and then they went on to win the first international tournament of the year at VCT Masters Madrid. So it begs the question, while this is a fantastic start for Sentinels, will they stay as the top team in their region in the VCT Americas League throughout the entire year? Was it just a fast start for Sentinels? Was it just a slow start for every other team? We're here to talk about it. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel, and today we're talking about the VCT Americas League and talking about which teams can potentially overthrow Sentinels for that top spot in the league. So this is the board I've put together for today's video. We have 5 teams on the board that I want to talk about. We of course have Sentinels, then we have 4 teams that potentially, to varying degrees, might have a shot at that top spot, but we'll get to each one individually. So starting off the video, I just want to take a quick look at Sentinels and just talk about their run thus far. Their MVP right now, I did put it as John QT in a previous video, but for now I'm going to put it as Zekken. Zekken might be the best duelist in the world right now. I do hesitate to call him the best player in the world because Madrid was only an 8-team tournament. But if he's not number 1 right now, he's at least number 2 or 3. He is absolutely insane. He's probably the best Jet and Raze in the world right now. We'll see with Jing's return if Jing can retake that spot as top Raze in the world, but Zekken is very good at many different duelists. Sentinels, of course, got first in both Madrid and kickoff, taking home the maximum amount of prize money, so Rob Moore is very happy about that. And their best map record, so not best map by opinion, because many people think that they're the best team on Split, which I do agree with, but their best map record-wise is Lotus with an impressive 6-0 throughout both kickoff and Madrid. They have not lost on that map so far. They've had some close games here and there. The Carmine Corp game comes to mind, but they have been able to push through and win those maps. So very impressive work on that map so far. And Sentinels, they have a very deep map pool. I've definitely got some comments from Sentinels fans being like, I don't know why people are saying Sentinels don't have a deep map pool. I don't know who's saying that. I know Team V was talking about something like that, saying that they only had 2 really good maps and then they didn't have a super deep map pool, but that was like before Madrid. I never really agreed with that. Even before Madrid, they still had a pretty solid map pool. So Sentinels, I mean, that's the mark of a really good team, is can you have a very deep map pool? Can you be elite on 2 to 3 different maps? They've proven that they're very good on multiple different maps. So if you're a Sentinels fan, I don't think you should be worried about the map pool. Their first match of the regular season split is against 100 Thieves. John QT might not be there for that match. He is apparently having visa issues right now. So in the case that he's not there, they will have Curry step in, which that does hurt Sentinels' chances of winning that match. Obviously, Curry hasn't been in pro play for a minute now, but he is still a serviceable player, and they also still have Kaplan. They still have a deep strat book. They still have those 4 other players that are very good. Plus, Sentinels typically match up very good against 100 Thieves. There's only one time that really comes to mind that 100 Thieves beat them in a big game, and that was LCQ 2022 when Sentinels had Shroud. Every single time since then, including that kickoff, Sentinels has beat them. So I don't think you should be too worried if you're a Sentinels fan about that game. Maybe they have a slow start to the regular season. Maybe they just take it easy for the first little bit, but it doesn't really matter because they have a large lead with those championship points. Plus, I don't think they're going to do that. I don't think they're just going to sit back and watch every other team learn their ways. I think they're going to continue to be highly competitive, and they're going to want to get first at every single bracket. So with Sentinels out of the way, we now have to talk about the other Americas team that was at Madrid, and that is Loud. Loud are a very interesting team this year. I'm very curious to see how Loud does during these regular season splits and just down the stretch. Of course, this iteration is without Aspas, which leaves less, in my opinion, to be their best individual player. In terms of their MVP, I've put Sadek in the past before, and I do still mostly agree with that, but I also think that this team wouldn't be where they were at Madrid and go as far as they did without Les's individual ability. Les was very good at both kickoff and Madrid, and he's shown that he is a fantastic player, especially being a player that can play a role like Viper and still manage to get a lot of frags. At Madrid, they did get 4th, so if you look at that from an outside perspective, that is very impressive of them, especially after losing their best player. But you should take their placement at Madrid with a grain of salt, because the only teams that they were able to beat were FPX and EDG, 2 teams from the China region, which is known by many as the worst region in Valorant up to this point. It's not a true test of skill to beat those 2 teams. They did completely wipe the floor with EDG, but they weren't able to beat either of the Pacific teams or Sentinels. So in terms of international play, we haven't seen Loud dominate up to this point. And this is where the loss of Aspas comes in. While they can try new things with their new roster, they can try these wacky compositions with Phoenix Breach on 4 different maps. You can keep doing things like that, and you might be able to offset the loss of talent in Aspas, but when you're against these top teams in the world, that talent does matter. So they can probably continue to dominate in their own region, but I don't know if I see Loud winning an international this year or being able to take that top spot in Americas. They absolutely could. They could prove me wrong, and they could have an amazing regular season split, but I think their chances of really dominating within both their region and internationally, I do have a lot of concerns when it comes to Loud. In terms of their best map record, they currently have a 4-1 record on Icebox. So far, they've only lost to Gen G on that map. Their first match for the regular season will be against Energy, so that should be a highly entertaining match. We haven't seen these two teams play each other yet this year, but typically those matches with Energy, the former Optic roster, at least mostly, and Loud being a very good team, that kind of old rivalry that was still kind of lingering from 2022, usually those are very highly entertaining matches, so should be a very good match either way it goes. So moving on to the 3 teams that are on the board that did not qualify for Madrid. I've dubbed this category, so you're telling me there's a chance. Some of these teams have a better chance than other teams in this category, but I figured I would throw just these 3 teams on the board, and I'll explain why 100 Thieves is there in a bit, but we're going to start with Energy. For Energy, their MVP in my eyes is Victor right now. He was, in my opinion, their MVP last year as well, and he's carried his strong play from last year into this season as well, and now he's trying a bit more of a different role. He's playing a bit of Cypher, so seeing him on that Sentinel, that's good to see that he is able to adapt to that role very effectively. Him and Crashy still having that same chemistry. Demon 1 has performed quite well up into this point. I do believe Demon 1 and Victor are both tied in VLR rating at kickoff, so you could put Demon 1 there as well, but I kind of see Victor as the de facto leader of that team, and he is still proving that he is a very, very good flex player. The results at kickoff were decent. They did get 3rd to 4th, so they did make their way through both Furia and Cloud9, made it to that playoff stage, and then just ran into a very, very hot Sentinels team. And due to a unforgiving format with having no double elimination in the playoff round, even though you had it in group stage, because that makes sense, they were not able to make up that loss. Their best map record right now is Ascent. They have a 3-0 record on it, so they have not been beaten on that map yet. We'll see if that stays the same, but right now that's looking like their strongest map. Their first match of the regular season split is, as I said, against Loud, so that should be a very good test of strength for both of those teams. When it comes to Energy, I'm really not too worried about this roster. They still have all the talent in the world. They still looked quite good at kickoff. They just weren't able to beat the team that won the entire tournament and the international. So there's worse ways to not qualify for international tournaments, losing against Billy, for example. Energy fans remember that one and cringe. But either way, I think this team absolutely has the best chance out of the 3 that are at the bottom of this board here. They have world-class talent, they have world championship talent, and their chemistry should just keep getting better and better. Their synergy will continue to grow and get better as the season goes along, and now that they've had more time to cook, they should look very strong during this regular season split. If they lose to Loud, I'm not too mad about it, but definitely concerned. If they continue to go on losing streaks, that would be very concerning. But again, I don't know if I see this roster of players accepting mediocrity. Moving on to Leviatan. Now, I do have some very real concerns about this team. Their MVP right now is Aspas. I think he was absolutely clearly the best pickup for this team in the offseason. Not really looking out of place. It looks like he has a bit more of a character flexibility on this new roster. So that's good to see. I'm glad he's getting to try, going off of Jet and maybe playing a bit of Reyna, maybe playing a bit of Raze. So we'll see how he continues to adapt to the roster. At kickoff, they had a disappointing early exit. They did lose in their group stage to both Loud and Sentinels, so their placement is 7th to 9th. Their best map record so far is Bind. They have a 2-1 record on it. Right now, they're getting absolutely destroyed on Split. They've played it 3 times. They have lost each of those times. Losing to 100 Thieves 3-13, losing to Loud 10-13, and then losing to Sentinels 3-13, which means they've only won 16 rounds out of 3 games on that map, so they really got to clean up that split it's looking horrendous. We don't know if this team has a deep map pool or not. We don't really know if this team's synergy is going to work out. I don't blame them for the early exit because they weren't in the group of death, but I just don't know if the moves that this team made during the offseason are going to end up with a cohesive roster. We haven't really seen it yet. Even the game that they won against 100 Thieves, it was a pretty sloppy win. Noswer is now officially off the team. He is on Furia now, so that problem has now been completely dealt with. You don't have to worry about, Calm maybe being benched or Tex maybe being benched for Noswer coming in. But there have already been rumors about potentially Tex moving off of this roster already. And I just don't understand what the point of picking up Tex was. I know he had a good year on the guard. I know he looked good, but the guard put him in a really good position. They gave him a system. They put him on that duelist role, and he looked very good. Now he's on a team with players from all different parts of the world, so the communication might be an issue there. I know they're coming in English, but how effective has that been up until this point? And Tex isn't the main duelist on this team. On the guard, he was. He was able to be that guy. He was able to be the guy playing Jet, playing that duelist role when it's needed, but when the other duelist is Asspass, who are you going to put on that role? Asspass. So Texas had to make up the difference by playing characters like Gecko, like Killjoy, like Cypher, and it just doesn't seem like it's working as well for him. I just don't understand the reasoning why you pick up the best duelist player arguably in the world at that time of signing, and then you bring in another player who is a very good duelist role, but now you're putting him in an uncomfortable position one he isn't used to. And the early returns haven't been very good. He had a really rough kickoff, and I don't entirely blame him. He hasn't been put in a terrible situation, nor would I put the entire problems of the team on him. There just seems to be a lack of cohesion right now, and they could clean it up, and if they do, they should be a really good team because they have an insanely good amount of talent. But again, was the addition of Calm a good idea? Was the addition of Tex a good idea? Was kicking Noswer off? Did that hurt this roster's trust in the organization and themselves? It just seems a bit messy on Leviatan's front right now, so I definitely have real concerns about them. Their first match of the season is against Cloud9, so we'll see how that goes. They should be able to beat Cloud9. Cloud9 are a team that just went through major roster changes after 3 matches yet again. So that is a team you have to beat. You have to get off to a good start if you're Leviatan, because if you fall behind early, that's going to be bad. So I just don't know. I don't know how I feel about this team yet. It's just a lot of uncertainty right now. We'll see. So moving on to the last team on this board, I want to talk a bit about 100 Thieves. So I've seen a lot of comments of people not believing in 100 Thieves, thinking that they're a bad team. I'm sure there was a decent amount of people that had a little giggle when they first saw 100 Thieves on this board. But I also do see a lot of 100 Thieves, you can call it hopium or copium, but there are people that do think that this team is pretty dangerous. Personally, I haven't seen it quite yet. While the excuses for them losing at kickoff can be they were in the group of death, they haven't had Boostio for very long, so the IGL, the brand new IGL, hasn't had time to really sink his fingers deep into this roster and get them going. All valid arguments, all reasons to look at why 100 Thieves didn't have a good kickoff. My problem with those arguments is that while they were able to take maps off of both Leviatan and Sentinels, they started each of those matches very poorly. Both first maps in those matches were absolutely terrible on the side of 100 Thieves. They just seemed really frantic. They weren't working cohesively. It just seemed like when things just got bad, it just continued to steamroll. When they took those maps off of Leviatan and Sentinels, they looked really good. They looked much better, and it seemed like they were able to get better as the match went along. But they didn't have that killer instinct ability to close out those matches. And that is definitely something that we've seen with some of the teams that have had success early on in the season versus the teams that haven't. You cannot start each match going down a map. It just won't work for you in the long run. And I definitely think that 100 Thieves are trying their best to clean up that part of it. I don't know if I see them fully cleaning that up. I really hope that they do, because they do have a strong roster. For the MVP so far, I put Cryocells. You could make an argument for Boostio as well. Asuna had a really rough kickoff, unfortunately. Bane was okay, and EU was okay. So it might be a problem of not having super top tier talent on your team. Asuna has been given chances time and time again by this organization, so this is basically his prove it year. So if he doesn't get it going, I don't know if he stays on this organization. Their placement at kickoff was, of course, 10th to 11th, and their best map record so far is split with 1-1. They do not have a positive record on a map so far. The first match of the regular season split is against Sentinels. As I said, Sentinels usually win that matchup, so even though it might be a weaker Sentinels without John QT, I don't know if I see them winning that. But even if they lose that first one, it's not going to be a big deal. They can steamroll their way back. They can try to continue to win after that match. It's not the worst thing in the world to start off the season with a loss. I don't think it's as important for 100 Thieves as it is for Energy or for Leviatan. But they're coming in as underdogs. They're coming in as dark horses, and I do really hope that they do well. I want Nadeshot to be able to smile when he thinks about his esports organization, but it is going to be an uphill battle. Do they have the top talent? This is the year to really prove that they do. Do they have the right choice in coach? This is the year to prove it as well. I think they have a really good IGL, and I think Busio is going to do wonders for this team, but will he be able to do enough to get this team to a place where they can be top 3 in their region? I pose that question on to you. Let me know what you guys thought of this video and any of the teams on the board. Which team do you think has the best chance of overthrowing Sentinels, or do you think none of these teams have a chance at all and it's just going to be Sen supremacy for the rest of the year? Please click like if you enjoyed the video. Thank you all very much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.